Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men. And I kind of feel like it's been a while since I sat down and covered Wolverine. When then I look at my reading order, and we covered Wolverine not too long ago. Now, the next few couple of videos going to jump back and forth between Wolverine and Excalibur. So, unfortunately, for you main X-Men fans out there, it's going to be a few videos until we are able to properly jump back over to the X-Men main team. Don't worry, it won't be a whole month or two or anything, but we got to wrap up Excalibur because it does wrap up issue number 125. And then we got a few Wolverine storylines we got to cover as well. Now, in this video, I'm only covering like 2 issues. And the reason why, because we're going to dive into Wolverine issue number 125. And the storyline after that one also brings in Sabretooth, if I remember correctly. Now, with all that being said, issue number 123 is kind of cool to me. And the reason why, because, okay, when it comes to Wolverine, the dude has a lot of lore behind him. And so this issue is Wolverine fighting against old members of his rogue gallery, but not being hit down with, lore. So you were somebody in the late 1990s trying to get into Marvel Comics, Wolverine comics. This was the perfect issue to pick up because it was just Wolverine fighting against some of his old members of his rogue gallery, but not being hit with lore content you had to know to fully understand these two characters. If you wanted to, though, you had to go back and read prior storylines before this one. And really, as you get into the opening pages of Wolverine issue number 123, we really pick up with the idea of Wolverine being a prisoner, that he was captured by two characters, Roughhouse and also Bloodscream. Now, I just had a thought in my head here. When it came to Bloodscream, I remember when I first covered this character and I called him Bloodsport, and everyone was kind of like, why'd you call him Bloodsport for? His name is Bloodscream. Originally, his name was Bloodsport. Then out of nowhere, it was like, no, call him Bloodscream instead, which honestly sounds a tad bit better. But we do see Wolverine as this prisoner, but we're kind of left to wonder, how in the world did this happen? And so, of course, we get a flashback. Now, with the flashback, we do get reminded of a few things when it came to Wolverine. Like, for example, when it came to Wolverine, he didn't lead the main X-Men team. What he did was he tried to begin the process of building a life for himself, but away from the X-Men. So he had his own apartment. Now, his apartment was technically blown up, and so for Logan, he doesn't really feel like cleaning up the place at the moment. Now, when you had Wolverine head over to a nearby store, he realized the store is being robbed. Now, for Logan, he let the guy get away so that he'll then be able to follow the guy to get more clues, but to also get the money back for the store owner. Now, once you had Logan did that, he tells us here that when it comes to this area, a lot of stores are now being hit by different types of racketeers. So a lot of people right now are supposedly paying for protection, but in reality, they're not getting that protection. Now, for Logan, he was able to kind of gather a few more clues that all pointed to this warehouse. Unfortunately for Wolverine, when he did head over to that warehouse, he was then jumped by Roughhouse and also Bloodscream. And so that kind of leads us back into the present day. Now, when it comes to Logan, he has been trying to escape, but the problem is that he hasn't really found a way to escape just yet. But also, when it comes to Roughhouse and Bloodscream, what they would do is just constantly beat down on Logan over and over again, allow his healing factor to heal him up to a certain point, and then begin the process all over again. Like the dude is constantly being beat down by these two characters. Now, when you do have the two characters walk away, you did have Logan begin the process of trying to escape. And honestly, I like this a lot because it really shows that for Logan, he has grown a lot over the years while being with the X-Men. The dude's already old, yes, but it's the idea that when it comes to Wolverine, he was always somebody who just rush into a room, kill all people, and then walk out. And that would be it, really. And so, with him hanging out with Storm, he began to learn how to pick locks. And so, once you have Wolverine being able to free one hand, you then have Logan begin to use the skills that Storm gave him to free the other hand. And this begins the process of Logan trying to escape. And really, the rest of this chapter is really more of us just seeing Wolverine fighting against Roughhouse and also Bloodscreen. Now, earlier in this video, I did kind of mention the fact that when it comes to the lore behind these different characters, you don't really know much about these different characters. But you did have Logan mention the fact that, like, the origin of Roughhouse is kind of, well, confusing. Not confusing, just unknown. And the reason why, because over the years in Marvel Comics, you kind of had Marvel kind of give us different points of origin stories for Roughhouse, where it's the idea that there's a possibility he has some connection to the Asgardians. We don't truthfully know all the way at this point. And so for Logan, while fighting against Roughhouse, he does bring that up like, yeah, this Roughhouse guy, he may have some connection to the Asgardians. Who knows? He's not as strong as the Hulk, but the dude still can, pack a punch. But either way, by the end of this storyline, it's really more of Wolverine and also Bloodscream and also Roughhouse fighting against one another, where you do have Wolverine come out as the winner. Now, yes, issue number 123 is very short-lived, but either way, it's still a good issue for us to cover. Now, as we transition over to Wolverine issue number 124, we do pick up with the idea of Wolverine going to team up with good old Captain America. And I like this a lot because it's a callback to the idea of the two characters and their connection with one another from their past. But as we dive into the opening pages of this one particular issue, it's really more of us seeing Wolverine kind of telling us that he feels like he's losing his edge. The idea that he used to be a great fighter, a great warrior, and being able to handle so much all at once. But now, over time, it seems like he's beginning to possibly slow down. And so for Wolverine, he has found a sensei to hopefully train him, but unfortunately, even after a good training session, he still feels a tad bit off. But after all of that, you did have Wolverine decide to go back into town. Now, when he does, it's really more of Wolverine kind of just walking around, but he also sees that Captain America is going to appear at some kind of charity event. Now, for Logan, even though him and Steve were like old friends, for Logan right now, he kind of wants to just stay away from Steve Rogers, but not in a negative way, more kind of like, listen, I ain't got time to deal with Steve and his Boy Scout ways. But while you have Logan walking around, he realized that he had picked up on something. He has smelt other people that may go after Steve Rogers. And so when he runs into the actual backstage of this building, he realized he can't see anybody, but he knows that when it comes to his powers, if he feels like there's somebody nearby that might do something wrong, then most of the time he is correct. And so we do learn that for Wolverine, while he's going on this random rampage, just swinging his claws around everywhere, and you do have Steve Rogers walk into the room, we kind of find out that basically there were a group of men who were hired to go after, well, Steve Rogers. And the thing was, they had all wore outfits to make themselves be invisible so that they would then be able to sneak up on Steve Rogers. But the problem is you have somebody like Logan who can still pick up on you even though you're hiding in plain sight. And so for Logan, once he does tell Steve Rogers what he had found out, and you then have the two characters realize what they had to do, the rest of this book is really more of us just seeing Wolverine and Steve Rogers fighting together once again. And honestly, it's again a callback to the idea of their friendship, but also the idea of how well they work together. But really, you do have this issue kind of end on the note where you do have Wolverine and Captain America being able to work together to defeat these criminals. Now, for Steve, kind of like, hey, listen, Wolverine, I kind of realize that you're going through something. You kind of asked me earlier in the middle of the fight, like, what do you do when you're off? Like, what do you do on an off day? And for Wolverine, he would have maybe took up the offer that Steve is offering, the idea of the two of them sitting down having dinner to discuss what's going on in Logan's life. But for Logan, he said, listen, I already made some plans, and unfortunately, I already told this person I'll take her out for an expensive dinner. And so this is where I want to end today's videos. With that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.